The space station looked terrible. Paint peeled from the metal walls. Water dripped from broken pipes. Half the lights did not work. Empress Mirai walked through the dark hallways and tried not to show her disgust. She wore simple clothes and called herself Hana. Nobody here knew she ruled the Veltharian Empire. She wanted to see how things really were in the outer regions of her territory. This station sat at the edge of space, far from the beautiful capital world. Humans worked here. They fixed broken ships and maintained old equipment. Most people in the Empire thought humans were stupid and primitive. Mirai believed this too. Humans had lost the war 30 years ago. Now they did the jobs nobody else wanted. The station manager, a fat creature with green skin, showed her around during the day. He complained about everything. The humans were lazy, he said. They broke things on purpose. They could not understand simple instructions. Mirai nodded and made notes on her data tablet. Everything confirmed what she already knew. But that evening, something strange happened. Mirai could not sleep in the small room they gave her. The bed was hard and the room smelled bad. She decided to walk around the station. Maybe she would find more problems to report. The halls were very dark now. Most workers had gone to their quarters. Only emergency lights glowed dimly on the walls. As she walked past the repair section, she saw a light coming from under a door. This was odd. The repair bays should be closed and locked at night. Mirai felt curious. Maybe someone was stealing equipment. She moved quietly to the door and pushed it open. Inside the repair bay, a man sat on an old metal stool. He was human. She could tell by his appearance. His clothes were stained with grease and oil. His hands looked rough and worn from hard work. But this was not what surprised her. The man was reading a book. A real book made of paper, and he read by the light of an oil lantern. Mirai stared. She had never seen an oil lantern except in museums. Nobody used them anymore. They were ancient, primitive things. And books made of paper were even more rare. Everything was digital now. Information lived in computers and data tablets. Physical books had disappeared long ago. The man looked up. He did not seem surprised or afraid. His eyes were calm and intelligent. He marked his place in the book with a thin piece of metal and set it down gently on the workbench beside him. "Can I help you?" he asked. His voice was quiet and polite. Mirai found her voice. "What are you doing here? This area should be closed." "I work here," the man said. "I am Daehyun. I fix the equipment. Sometimes I stay late to read. The power in this section is not reliable. The lights go out often, so I use this." He gestured to the lantern. "It never fails." Mirai stepped closer. "You read by lamplight? Like a primitive savage?" Daehyun smiled slightly. It was not an angry smile or a mean one. It was patient, like a teacher with a confused student. "The lamp works," he said. "The station lights do not. Which one is more primitive?" The words surprised her. Mirai felt annoyed. How dare this human question her? But she was also curious. She looked at the book on his workbench. "What are you reading?" "Meditations by Marcus Aurelius," Daehyun said. "He was an emperor on Earth long ago. A very wise man. Philosophy?" Mirai almost laughed. "You read philosophy? Why?" "Because it helps me understand life," Daehyun said simply. Marcus Aurelius wrote about how to live well even when things are difficult. His empire faced many problems. He faced many problems. But he stayed calm and did his duty. He controlled what he could control and accepted what he could not change. Mirai did not know what to say. She had expected this human to be stupid or angry. Instead, he spoke thoughtfully about ancient wisdom. She found herself sitting on a nearby crate without really deciding to do so. "Your people lost the war," she said. "You have nothing. You work in places like this, doing simple jobs. Does your philosophy help with that?" Daehyun picked up the book and opened it carefully. He found a page and read aloud. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He closed the book. "Yes, we lost the war. Yes, we have little now. But we still have our minds. We still have our dignity. We still have our knowledge. Nobody can take those things unless we let them." Pretty words, Mirai said, but she felt uncomfortable. Something about the way he spoke made her think. "Where did you get that book?" "I thought all human books were destroyed or locked away." "Many were," Daehyun admitted, "but some people saved what they could. We pass them carefully from person to person. We protect them. Knowledge is important. It is more important than machines or buildings. Those things can be rebuilt. But if knowledge is lost, it is gone forever. Mirai stood up. This conversation was making her uneasy. You should go to your quarters. It is late, Daehyun nodded. He carefully closed the book and wrapped it in a soft cloth. He turned down the lamp until the flame went out. Then he stood and bowed slightly to her. Good night, Administrator Hana. Sleep well. She left the repair bay and walked back to her room. But she could not stop thinking about what she had seen. The image stayed in her mind. A human man reading an ancient book by lamplight in a broken repair bay. It should have looked pathetic. Instead, it looked somehow dignified. Over the next few days, Mirai continued her inspection. She watched the human workers carefully now. What she saw confused her. The station manager said humans were lazy and stupid. But the humans actually kept everything running. When a water pump broke, they fixed it with parts they made themselves. When the air filtration system failed, they found a solution that the alien technicians had missed. She saw Daehyun several times during the day. He worked quietly and efficiently. Other humans came to him with questions. He would stop his work and explain things patiently. They clearly respected him. Once she saw him teaching a young human woman how to repair a complex machine. He showed her each step carefully, making sure she understood before moving on. That night, Mirai went back to the repair bay. She told herself she was just checking for security problems. But really, she was curious. She wanted to talk to him again. The door was open this time. Daehyun sat in the same place with his lamp and his book. He looked up when she entered and smiled slightly, as if he had been expecting her. Good evening, Administrator, he said. Would you like to sit? Mirai sat on the crate again. I have been watching the humans here. You keep this station running, do you not? Despite the lack of resources, we do our best, Daehyun said. We have to. This is our home now. If we do not maintain it, nobody else will. The station manager says your people are incompetent. He believes what is convenient to believe, Daehyun replied calmly. If he admits we are competent, he might have to pay us fairly or treat us with respect. It is easier to call us stupid. The honesty in his words struck her. He was not angry or bitter. He simply stated a fact. Mirai found herself asking, what else do you read besides philosophy? Daehyun's face lit up with quiet pleasure. History, poetry, science, stories. Anything I can find. Each book is precious. Each one teaches something valuable. Tell me something you learned, Mirai said. She did not know why she asked, but she wanted to hear him speak. Daehyun thought for a moment. Humans survived many terrible things on Earth. Ice ages that covered the world in snow. Diseases that killed millions. Wars that destroyed everything. But we always rebuilt. We always learned. We always found a way forward. Not because we were the strongest or the smartest, but because we were stubborn. We refused to give up. And now? Mirai asked quietly. Now we do the same thing, Daehyun said. We survive, we learn. We pass our knowledge to the next generation. We wait for the future, and we refuse to give up. Mirai left the repair bay feeling strange. She had ruled an empire for many years. She had met countless beings from hundreds of worlds. But this simple conversation with a human mechanic had shaken something inside her. She had always believed her people were superior. They had better technology, longer lives, greater power. But Daehyun had something she suddenly realized her people might have lost. Wisdom earned through hardship. That night she could not sleep. She kept seeing the lamp flame reflected in Daehyun's calm eyes. She kept hearing his quiet words about refusing to give up. For the first time in a very long time, Empress Mirai questioned something she had always believed. Maybe humans were not as primitive as everyone thought. Maybe they had been underestimated. And if that was true, what did it mean for everything else she believed? Mirai found reasons to stay at the station longer than planned. She told her ship's crew she needed more time for the inspection. They did not question her. She was the Empress, after all. What she really wanted was to return to the repair bay each night and talk with Daehyun. It became a pattern. During the day, she played her role as Administrator Hana. She checked equipment and asked questions. At night, she went to the repair bay. Daehyun was always there with his lamp and his books. He never seemed surprised to see her. He would simply mark his page and greet her warmly. On the third night, Mirai arrived to find Daehyun reading a different book. This one looked very old. The cover was worn and the pages were yellowed. What is that? She asked. Poetry, Daehyun said, by a woman named Emily Dickinson. She lived on Earth hundreds of years ago. She wrote about hope and nature and death and life. Beautiful words, can I see? The words came out before Mirai could stop them. She had never cared about human culture before, but now she was curious. Daehyun handed her the book carefully as if it were made of glass. Mirai opened it and looked at the strange human writing. She could read human languages through her translation implant, but seeing the actual letters on paper felt different, more real somehow. She read a poem about hope being a small bird that never stops singing. The words were simple, but they touched something in her heart. She looked up at Daehyun. "Where do you keep all these books? Surely you have more than just a few." Daehyun was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up. "Would you like to see?" Mirai nodded. He led her to a back corner of the repair bay. Behind some old equipment, there was a hidden door in the wall. It looked like part of the metal panels, but when Daehyun pressed on it, the door swung open. Inside was a small room, barely big enough for two people to stand in. The room was full of books. Shelves lined every wall from floor to ceiling. There must have been 100 books or more. Mirai stared in shock. This was illegal. Humans were not supposed to have collections like this. Each book represented enormous risk. "How did you get all these?" she whispered. "Many people helped," Daehyun said softly. "Some were saved during the war. Others were smuggled from Earth over the years. Each book traveled a long journey to get here. People risked their lives to protect them." "Why?" Mirai asked. "Why risk so much for old books?" Daehyun looked at her seriously. "These books are our memory. They contain everything humans learned over thousands of years. Science, art, philosophy, history, stories. If we lose them, we lose who we are. We become nothing but workers with no past and no identity." "You could store this information digitally," Mirai said. "It would be safer." "Digital information can be deleted with a single command," Daehyun replied. "After the war, the victors erased most of our digital records. They said it was for security. But it was really to make us forget. Physical books cannot be erased so easily. You would have to find and burn every single one. And even then, people would remember what they read." Mirai felt a chill. She had not known about the digital purges. Or perhaps she had known but never thought about what it meant. Standing in this hidden library, she understood. This was not just about preserving information. This was about survival. Over the following nights, Daehyun shared more with her. He told her about human history, not the simple version taught in imperial schools, where humans were primitive warmongers who attacked the empire and were rightfully conquered. The real history was different and more complex. Humans had survived terrible things on their home planet. Ice ages, diseases, natural disasters. They had built great civilizations and watched them fall, then built again. They had created beautiful art and music and literature. They had made amazing discoveries in science and medicine. They were not perfect. They had fought wars and done cruel things, but they had also shown incredible courage and kindness. "We thought we were ready when we met other species," Daehyun said one night. "We had finally achieved space travel. We were so excited to find other intelligent life. But we were not ready for empires that had existed for thousands of years. We were children compared to them. The war was over before it really began." "You attacked first," Mirai said. She had read the military reports. "Did we?" Daehyun asked quietly. "Or did we defend ourselves when your empire's ships entered our solar system without permission?" "The history depends on who tells it." Mirai had no answer to that. She had never questioned the official history before. But now she wondered, what if humans had simply been protecting their home? What if they had been afraid? She would have to research this more carefully. One evening, an alarm sounded through the station. A critical cooling system had failed. Mirai watched as the station manager panicked. He called for Imperial technicians to come from the nearest military base. But that would take days. The system needed to be fixed now, or the entire station would overheat and have to be evacuated. Daehyun stepped forward. "We can fix it," he said calmly. The station manager laughed meanly. You're just a human mechanic. This is advanced technology. You could not possibly understand it." "Let them try," Mirai said. Her voice carried authority that made the manager stop laughing. "What harm could it do?" Daehyun gathered 3 other human workers. Mirai followed them to the cooling system room. The machinery was complex and sophisticated. It used technology that was supposed to be beyond human understanding, but the humans did not seem intimidated. They studied the problem carefully. The main component is burned out, one worker said. We do not have a replacement. We can make one, Daehyun said. He sketched a quick diagram on a piece of paper. This design is old, very old, from Earth's early space stations. But the principle is the same. We adapt it to work with this system. Mirai watched in fascination as they worked. They gathered parts from storage rooms. They modified and adapted pieces that were meant for completely different purposes. They worked quickly but carefully, checking each connection. Within 3 hours, they had built a replacement component and installed it. The cooling system came back online. The station manager grudgingly thanked them. But Mirai saw the truth. These humans had solved in hours what Imperial technicians could not have solved at all without the exact right parts. They had used knowledge and creativity instead of just following procedures. That night in the repair bay, Mirai said, "You saved the station today." Daehyun shrugged. "We did what needed to be done. Humans are good at adapting. We have to be. We do not have the luxury of perfect parts and unlimited resources." "Where did you learn engineering?" Mirai asked. "From books," he said, gesturing to the hidden room. "From other workers. From trial and error. After the war, humans could not attend Imperial universities. So we taught ourselves. We shared knowledge. We learned from each other." A young woman entered the repair bay. She was human, probably in her early 20s. She carried a damaged tool. When she saw Mirai, she hesitated. "It is all right, Suyeon," Daehyun said. "Administrator Hana is a friend." The young woman Suyeon approached cautiously. She set the broken tool on the workbench. "Can you fix this?" "I tried, but I cannot figure out the problem." Daehyun examined the tool. "This will be a good lesson. Sit. I will show you." He began taking the tool apart, explaining each step to Suyeon. The young woman listened carefully, asking smart questions. Mirai watched them. She saw how patient Daehyun was as a teacher. She saw how eager Suyeon was to learn. This was happening all over the station, she realized. Humans teaching other humans, passing on knowledge, preparing the next generation. When the lesson was done and Suyeon left with her repaired tool, Mirai said, "She is your student. One of many," Daehyun said. "If we do not teach the young ones, our knowledge dies with us. Every human who knows something has a responsibility to share it." "Your people are organizing," Mirai said slowly. "Building a network of knowledge. This is not random or accidental." "No," Daehyun agreed. "It is not. We are preparing for a future. We do not know what that future holds, but when our chance comes, we will be ready." The words sounded almost like treason, but they were spoken so calmly, so matter-of-factly that Mirai could not be angry. This was not violence or rebellion. This was simply survival. Humans were ensuring they would not be forgotten or erased. As Mirai walked back to her quarters that night, she felt deeply troubled. Everything she had been taught about humans was wrong. They were not stupid. They were not primitive. They were resourceful, intelligent, and resilient. They had been underestimated. And she had been part of that mistake. The question now was, what would she do about it? She was the Empress. She had power to change things. But changing Imperial policy about humans would be dangerous. Many powerful people benefited from keeping humans subjugated. They would resist. They would fight her. Mirai lay in her uncomfortable bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about Daehyun reading by lamplight. She thought about his hidden library. She thought about humans teaching and learning and refusing to give up. For the first time in her long life, Empress Mirai felt ashamed of her empire. And shame, she was learning, was a powerful force for change. The message came early in the morning. Mirai's personal communicator buzzed urgently. She answered it in her small quarters, still half asleep. The face of Commander Jiwon appeared on the screen. Jiwon was the captain of Mirai's flagship and her most trusted military advisor. "Your Majesty," Jiwon said formally, "you must return to the ship immediately. High Chancellor Wonshik is asking questions about your extended absence. There are political complications." Mirai felt a sinking feeling in her chest. She had stayed at the station too long. She had been careless. "What kind of complications?" "The High Chancellor has proposed new legislation regarding human labor populations," Jiwon explained. "He wants to relocate humans from small outposts to central processing facilities. He says it will be more efficient, but really it would destroy their communities." Mirai understood immediately. Wonshik was always looking for ways to increase Imperial profit. If humans were concentrated in large facilities, They could be controlled more easily. Their informal networks of teaching and knowledge sharing would be broken. It was exactly the wrong thing to do, but if she opposed it without careful preparation, she would look weak. "I will return today," Mirai said. "Prepare my transport." She dressed quickly in her Administrator Hana clothes and went to the repair bay one last time. She needed to say goodbye to Daehyun, but she also needed to ask him something important. Daehyun was already working when she arrived. He looked up and seemed to sense that something had changed. "You are leaving," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," Mirai said. "I have been called back to my duties. But before I go, I want to ask you something. Would you come with me? I could use someone with your knowledge. You could advise me on how to improve conditions for human workers throughout the Empire." Daehyun set down his tools. He looked at her for a long moment. "You are more than an administrator, are you not?" "I have wondered. You ask unusual questions. You carry yourself with authority. You speak as someone who makes decisions that affect many people." Mirai almost smiled. He had suspected. "Does it matter who I am?" "No," Daehyun said. "What matters is that you have learned something here. You see humans differently now. That is important. Will you come?" Mirai asked again. "I cannot," Daehyun said gently. "My place is here. I teach people. I maintain the library. I help keep our community strong. If I leave, who will do this work? One person in a palace cannot help humans as much as one person in a community." Mirai felt disappointed, but also respected his decision. "You are right. You are more valuable here. But you can do something I cannot," Daehyun said. "You have power. You can change laws and policies. You can help humans everywhere, not just on this station. That is your role." Before Mirai could respond, alarms blared through the station. Security alerts flashed on wall panels. Armed guards ran past the repair bay. Something was wrong. A security team burst into the repair bay. The leader pointed at Daehyun. "You are under arrest. We received reports of illegal materials hidden on station premises. Someone had betrayed them. Someone had reported the hidden library." Mirai watched as guards moved toward the secret door behind the equipment. Her mind raced. If they found the books, Daehyun would be imprisoned or worse. The knowledge he protected would be destroyed. Mirai made a decision. She stepped forward and let her disguise drop. She stood tall and her voice carried absolute authority. "Stop, I am Empress Mirai of the Veltharian Empire. This human is under my personal protection. You will not arrest him." The security team froze. They stared at her in shock. One guard dropped to his knee immediately. The others followed. They had not known the Empress was on the station. The leader stammered, "Your Majesty, we had orders to investigate illegal materials." "Who gave these orders?" Mirai demanded. "The station manager, Your Majesty. He said humans were hoarding contraband." "The station manager is dismissed from his position," Mirai said coldly. "This facility is now under direct Imperial oversight. You are dismissed. Go." The guards left quickly, grateful to escape the situation. When they were gone, Mirai turned to Daehyun. He looked shaken but also strangely calm. "You revealed yourself to save me," he said quietly. "I could not let them destroy your library," Mirai said. "Or arrest you." "You are the Empress," Daehyun said. "I suspected, but I did not want to believe it. An Empress who visits a repair bay at night to talk with a human mechanic. It seems impossible." "It seems impossible to me too," Mirai admitted. "A few weeks ago I would never have done this. But you changed something in me. You showed me that humans are not what I believed. You taught me to question what I thought I knew." "What will you do now?" Daehyun asked. "I do not know," Mirai said honestly. "I must return to my ship. I must deal with High Chancellor Wanshik and his legislation. But I cannot stay silent anymore. I cannot let my empire continue to oppress humans when I know the truth." "That will be dangerous," Daehyun warned. "Powerful people benefit from the current system. They will not want change." "I know," Mirai said, "but Marcus Aurelius wrote about doing what is right even when it is difficult. You taught me that. Now I must follow that wisdom," Daehyun smiled. "I did not expect my lessons to have such consequences." Mirai returned to her flagship 2 hours later. Commander Jiwon met her on the landing deck. The commander looked concerned. "Your Majesty, there are rumors spreading through the crew. They say you were living as a common administrator on that station." "The rumors are true," Mirai said. "I wanted to see conditions without ceremony or preparation. What I found was disturbing." "High Chancellor Wanshik is waiting in the conference chamber," Jiwon said. He insists on meeting with you immediately. Mirai nodded. Let him wait a bit longer. I need to review some files first. Jiwan, I want you to gather all reports about human labor efficiency from the past 20 years. Every report from every station and facility. Jiwan looked puzzled but obeyed. Yes, Your Majesty. Mirai spent the next 3 hours reviewing data. What she found shocked her. Report after report showed humans performing well above expectations. They fixed equipment faster than alien technicians. They found creative solutions to complex problems. They worked efficiently with minimal resources. But these positive reports were always buried in files or contradicted by negative summaries from managers. It was deliberate. Someone had been hiding evidence of human competence. Someone wanted to maintain the belief that humans were inferior, and Mirai suspected she knew who. She finally went to the conference chamber. High Chancellor Wanshik waited there, looking impatient. He was a tall, thin creature with gray skin and cold eyes. He had served in the imperial government for decades. He was wealthy and powerful. Your Majesty, Wanshik said. His tone was respectful but barely. Your absence has caused concern. The Empire needs its Empress present, not hiding on remote stations. I was not hiding, Mirai said. I was investigating. And what I found was very interesting. Oh? Wanshik raised an eyebrow. And what did you find? I found that humans are far more capable than we have acknowledged, Mirai said. I found that they keep our facilities running despite terrible conditions. I found that they are intelligent, resourceful, and resilient. And I found that someone has been deliberately suppressing positive reports about their work. Wanshik's expression did not change. Humans are laborers, Your Majesty. Nothing more. They serve the Empire as they should. I disagree, Mirai said, and I will not support your legislation to relocate human populations. In fact, I intend to propose reforms that will improve their conditions and grant them more autonomy. Wanshik stood up slowly. His cold eyes studied her. Your Majesty, you are making a serious mistake. The other council members will not support this. You will face strong opposition. Then I will face it, Mirai said firmly. I am the Empress. I will do what is right, not what is convenient. Wanshik smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. We shall see, Your Majesty. He bowed and left the chamber. When he was gone, Jiwan entered. Your Majesty, may I speak freely? Always, Mirai said. What happened on that station? Jiwan asked. You have changed. You speak differently about humans now. Mirai thought about Daehyun reading by lamplight. She thought about his quiet dignity and his hidden library. She thought about Suyeon learning eagerly from her teacher. She thought about humans fixing impossible problems with creativity and determination. I met someone who opened my eyes, Mirai said. I learned that we have been wrong about an entire species, and now I must try to make it right whatever the cost. Jiwan nodded slowly. Then I will support you, Your Majesty, even if it is dangerous. Thank you, Mirai said. I will need all the support I can find. That night, Mirai stood at the observation window of her flagship and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Daehyun was back in his repair bay, probably reading by lamplight. The image comforted her. He had found a way to resist quietly, to preserve what mattered, to teach and inspire others. Now she would find her own way to resist. She would use her power to change an unjust system. It would be difficult. It would be dangerous. But it was necessary. And for the first time in a long time, Empress Mirai felt like she had a purpose that truly mattered. The Imperial Council chamber was enormous and intimidating. Tall pillars reached toward a ceiling decorated with images of conquest and glory. Representatives from across the Empire sat in curved rows facing the throne. These were the most powerful beings in Veltharian space. Many had ruled their regions for centuries. Empress Mirai sat on her throne and looked out at them. She felt nervous but determined. Today she would challenge everything they believed about humans. She knew most of them would resist. Change always met resistance from those who benefited from the old ways. High Chancellor Wanshik stood to present his legislation first. He spoke smoothly about efficiency and order. He explained how concentrating human populations in central facilities would improve productivity. He made it sound reasonable and logical, but Mirai heard what he did not say. This was about control, not efficiency. When Wanshik finished, Mirai stood. The chamber became quiet. I oppose this legislation, she said clearly. And I propose something different. Humans should be granted limited autonomy in certain territories. They should have access to education and resources. They should be recognized as intelligent beings, not just laborers. The chamber erupted. Council members shouted questions and objections. How could the Empress suggest such a thing? Humans had attacked the Empire. Humans were primitive. This was madness. Political suicide. Several of Mirai's traditional allies looked away, unwilling to support her. Wanshik smiled. He had expected this chaos. Your Majesty, he said loudly over the noise. With respect, it seems you have been influenced by propaganda. Perhaps by spending time among humans, you have developed an unrealistic view of their capabilities. They are not what you believe. The words stung because they were partially true. She had been influenced by her time with Daehyun. But that influence had shown her reality, not propaganda. Mirai took a deep breath. Then let us test my belief, she said. The chamber grew quiet again. Wanshik looked suspicious. What do you propose? Present your most difficult unsolved engineering problem, Mirai said. Something our best scientists have failed to solve. Give that same problem to a team of humans with basic resources. If the humans cannot solve it, I will withdraw my proposal. But if they succeed, this council will reconsider its assumptions about human capabilities. Wanshik's eyes gleamed. This was perfect for him. He could destroy Mirai's credibility and embarrass humans at the same time. Agreed, he said quickly. I propose the dimensional drive instability problem. Our physicists have worked on it for 40 years without success. Mirai felt her stomach tighten. The dimensional drive problem was legendary. Ships using dimensional drives sometimes experienced catastrophic failures under certain conditions. Nobody understood why. Imperial scientists had tried countless solutions. All had failed. She had just agreed to let humans attempt the impossible, but she nodded. Acceptable. Give me 1 week to assemble a human team. They will work under observation to ensure fairness, the council agreed. As the meeting ended, Commander Jiwan approached Mirai. Your Majesty, that was very risky. What if the humans cannot solve it? Then I will have lost, Mirai said. But I believe in them. I have seen what they can do. Mirai returned to the frontier station the next day. She found Daehyun in his repair bay, as always. When she explained the situation, he looked troubled. This is a terrible risk, he said. If we fail, conditions will become worse for all humans. Wanshik will use our failure as proof that we are inferior. I know, Mirai said. But it is also an opportunity. Will you help me assemble a team? Daehyun was silent for a long moment. Then Suyeon entered the repair bay. She had been listening from the doorway. I will do it, the young woman said firmly. We have to try. Other human workers began gathering. Word had spread quickly through their network. They understood what was at stake. Finally, Daehyun nodded. We will need 5 people. Engineers, physicists, people who think creatively. I know who to ask. 3 days later, the human team assembled on Mirai's flagship. Besides Daehyun and Suyeon, there was Junho, an older man who had studied physics on Earth before the war. There was Hayori, a young engineer who specialized in mechanical systems. And there was Minho, who understood computer systems better than anyone. They were given a workspace with basic tools, paper, pencils, calculators, simple computers, no access to advanced Imperial technology or databases. Imperial observers watched through windows, ready to report any cheating. Wanshik visited personally to sneer at their simple tools. This is what you bring to solve a problem that defeated our greatest minds, he said, gesturing at their paper and pencils. Pathetic. Daehyun ignored him. He gathered his team around a large table. Mirai watched through the observation window as they began. She could not help them now. This was entirely up to them. The first day, the humans simply studied the problem. They read technical specifications about dimensional drives. They reviewed reports of failures. They asked questions. Imperial scientists answered reluctantly, clearly expecting the humans to give up quickly. The second day, something changed. The humans started drawing diagrams. They filled sheets of paper with calculations. They argued and debated. Mirai watched Daehyun explain something to the others using hand gestures. Whatever he said made Junho laugh and shake his head, then start writing furiously. By the third day, Imperial observers started paying closer attention. The humans were not giving up. They were actually working through the problem systematically. Suyeon built a small physical model using metal scraps and string. It looked crude, but she used it to demonstrate something to the others. They all nodded in understanding. On the fourth day, Wanshik visited again. He looked annoyed now instead of amused. The humans were supposed to have failed already. Instead, they worked with intense focus. Hayori was testing something with the mechanical model. Minyo was running calculations on the simple computer. Daehyun and Junho were sketching designs. How much longer will this farce continue? Wanshik asked Mirai. We agreed on 1 week, Mirai replied calmly. They have 3 days remaining. On the morning of the 7th day, Daehyun asked to address the Imperial Council. Mirai felt her heart racing. Either they had found something or they were admitting defeat. She could not tell which from Daehyun's calm expression. The council assembled. Wanshik looked confident. Most council members looked bored or sympathetic. They expected the humans to have failed. This would be embarrassing for the Empress but educational for everyone else. Daehyun stood before them in his simple work clothes. He did not look nervous. He looked like a teacher about to explain something important. We found the problem, he said simply. The chamber became very quiet. Wanshik leaned forward. Explain, he demanded. Daehyun displayed a simple diagram on the viewing screen. Dimensional drives work perfectly in controlled laboratory conditions. But space is not a laboratory. Space is chaotic. Small variations in gravitational fields, electromagnetic radiation, and quantum fluctuations create unpredictable interference. Your scientists tried to solve this with more computational power, more complex mathematical models. They tried to predict and account for every possible variable. That is the correct approach, Wanshik said. Obviously. No, Daehyun said. It is the wrong approach. You cannot predict chaos. You can only absorb it. He displayed another diagram. The solution is not computational. It is mechanical. A simple buffer system that absorbs and dissipates the interference physically, rather than trying to predict and prevent it. Hiyori stepped forward. She carried the crude model they had built. Like shock absorbers on an ancient Earth vehicle, she explained. The vehicle cannot predict every bump in the road, but shock absorbers smooth out the ride regardless. We adapted this principle to dimensional drives. Junho presented technical specifications. The buffer uses a crystalline matrix that responds to interference patterns automatically. No predictions needed. It simply reacts and absorbs. We can build a prototype in 2 days with proper resources. The council chamber exploded with noise. Imperial scientists were brought in immediately. They studied the human proposal with increasing excitement. After 2 hours of analysis, the lead Imperial physicist stood. This solution is brilliant, she said, sounding amazed. Elegant and simple. We were overthinking the problem. We need to test it, but the mathematics are sound. Wanshik looked like he had swallowed something bitter. This proves nothing. One success does not mean humans are capable of complex thought. It proves they can solve problems we could not, Mirai said. With basic tools and 1 week of work, they found what our scientists missed for 40 years. That deserves recognition. Several council members nodded. One spoke up. The Empress is correct. We have underestimated this species. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our policies. The vote that followed was close, but Mirai won. Wanshik's legislation was rejected. A committee was formed to study improvements in human conditions. It was not everything Mirai wanted, but it was a beginning. That evening, Mirai met privately with the human team. You did something incredible, she told them. You changed minds. You proved something important, Daehyun smiled. We did what humans do. We adapted. We looked at the problem differently. We used old knowledge in new ways. Where did you get the idea? Mirai asked. From a book, Daehyun said. A very old engineering text from Earth's 20th century. It discussed mechanical systems for absorbing vibration. The principle was the same. Sometimes old wisdom solves new problems, Suyeon spoke up. Will this really change things for humans? Yes, Mirai said firmly. But the fight is not over. High Chancellor Wanshik will not accept this defeat easily. He will look for other ways to maintain the old system. We must be ready. As the humans left to return to their quarters, Commander Jiwon approached Mirai. Your Majesty, I must admit something. I did not believe humans were capable of this. I thought you were being naive. But I was wrong. They impressed me today. They impressed everyone, Mirai said. That is what I hoped for. Once people see the truth, it is hard to go back to the old lies. But even as she spoke, Mirai felt uneasy. One sheik had left the council chamber with a dangerous look in his eyes. He was a powerful man who had just been humiliated. Men like that did not forgive. They plotted revenge. Mirai knew she would have to be careful. The real battle was just beginning. The celebration ceremony was supposed to be a moment of triumph. The dimensional drive solution had been tested successfully. Ships across the Empire would soon be safer because of human ingenuity. Mirai stood on the grand platform with the human team beside her. Thousands watched in person and millions more through broadcasts. But something felt wrong. Mirai noticed extra security guards in unusual positions. She saw one chick watching from the side with a strange expression. Commander Jiwon stood close to her, looking alert and tense. As Mirai began her speech praising the human team, an explosion rocked the platform. Smoke filled the air. People screamed and ran. Mirai felt someone push her down behind a barrier. It was Suyan, the young human woman, shielding her with her own body. Security forces swarmed the area. The attackers were caught quickly. They wore uniforms that identified them as human resistance fighters. But something about the situation seemed wrong to Mirai. Why would human rebels attack during a ceremony honoring humans? Commander Jiwon pulled Mirai to safety. Once they were secure in a protected room, Jiwon said urgently, "Your Majesty, I need to tell you something. I have been investigating High Chancellor Wonshik." Something he said after the council meeting troubled me. "I found evidence, and what kind of evidence?" Mirai asked, though she already suspected. "The attack was staged," Jiwon said. "The attackers were not real human resistance fighters. They were hired criminals dressed to look like humans. Wonshik planned this. He meant to kill you and blame it on human rebels. This would destroy sympathy for humans and remove you from power at the same time." Mirai felt cold anger. "You have proof?" "Yes," Jiwon said. "Financial records, communications, witness statements. I was preparing to bring this to you after the ceremony, but then the attack happened sooner than I expected. And there is something else," Jiwon continued. "While investigating Wonshik, I found decades of suppressed reports. He personally ordered the hiding of positive information about human capabilities. He knew humans were competent and intelligent. He suppressed the evidence deliberately to maintain cheap labor and justify exploitation. The full scope of the deception stunned Mirai. This was not just prejudice or ignorance. It was calculated oppression for profit. Wonshik had built his wealth and power by keeping humans subjugated. And he had been willing to kill to protect that system. "Arrest him," Mirai ordered, "immediately, and bring all evidence to the council." Within hours, Wonshik was in custody. The evidence was overwhelming. Even his allies could not defend him. The attempted assassination, the conspiracy, the decades of suppression all came to light. The scandal shocked the Empire. Mirai called an emergency session of the Imperial Council. This time she came prepared. She presented all the evidence. She showed how humans had been systematically undervalued and exploited. She demonstrated that imperial prosperity had been built partially on deliberate oppression. "We face a choice," Mirai said to the assembled council. "We can continue the old system built on lies and exploitation, or we can build something better, something honest, something worthy of a truly advanced civilization." She spoke about meeting Daehyun in the repair bay. She described his dignity, his wisdom, his quiet refusal to surrender his humanity despite terrible circumstances. She talked about the hidden library and what it represented. She explained how humans kept stations running, solved impossible problems, and maintained hope against all odds. "I was wrong about humans," Mirai said. "We have all been wrong. But we can choose to be right now. We can recognize their worth. We can grant them autonomy and respect. We can learn from them as much as they learn from us. This is not weakness. This is wisdom." The vote was not close this time. With Wonshik's treachery exposed and the evidence clear, the council approved sweeping reforms. Humans would receive autonomous territories with self-governance. Earth would become an independent protectorate, not a colony. Educational programs would be established. Human knowledge and culture would be preserved and respected. It was not perfect equality yet. That would take time, but it was real change, substantial change. The foundation had been laid for a different future. 3 months later, Mirai returned to the frontier station. She traveled openly this time as Empress with full ceremony. But what she really wanted was to visit the repair bay again. She found Daehyun in the same place, sitting on his stool with a book and his oil lantern. The station had been completely renovated. New equipment, fresh paint, working lights. But Daehyun still used his lamp. The power grid is perfect now, Mirai observed. You do not need that lamp anymore. Daehyun smiled. I know, but I like it. It reminds me that simple tools used well are often better than complex ones used poorly. It reminds me of where we came from and what we learned. Mirai sat on the crate that had become her usual spot. I wanted to thank you, she said. You changed everything. You changed me. I just read books and fixed machines, Daehyun said. You did the hard part. You used your power to make change. That took courage. It was terrifying, Mirai admitted. I almost lost everything. Won-shik nearly succeeded, but he did not, Daehyun said. And now things are different. Not perfect, but better. That is how progress works. Small steps. Patient effort. Refusing to give up. They talked for hours that evening like old friends. Daehyun shared what he was reading now, a collection of poems by an ancient earthwriter named Rumi. He read some aloud. The words spoke of unity and understanding across differences. They seemed appropriate. Before Mirai left, she asked, What will you do now? You could teach at a university. You could advise the new human councils. You have earned that recognition. I will stay here, Daehyun said. I will keep fixing machines and teaching whoever wants to learn. My work is not finished. And besides, I like it here. This is home. Mirai understood. Some people changed the world from palaces and councils. Others changed it from repair bays and quiet conversations. Both were necessary. 5 years passed. The reforms took root and grew. Human autonomous territories flourished. A new generation of humans attended imperial universities alongside alien students. Cultural exchange programs brought human art, music, and literature to worlds across the empire. The dimensional drive solution saved countless lives and proved human technical capability to doubters. Suyeon, the young apprentice, became a liaison between human territories and the imperial government. She worked tirelessly to ensure reforms were implemented fairly. She carried forward the lessons Daehyun had taught her. The frontier station became a symbol. Tourists and students visited to see where the transformation began. The repair bay where Mirai first found Daehyun reading was preserved as a memorial. A plaque explained what happened there, how an empress and a mechanic had changed the course of history through simple conversation. Daehyun still worked there. He was older now, his hair gray, but his eyes remained sharp and kind. He still taught anyone who asked. He still maintained the hidden library, though it was not hidden anymore. The books were displayed proudly, available to anyone who wanted to read them. On the anniversary of the reforms, Mirai visited again. She came every year now. They had tea in the repair bay and talked about philosophy and progress. Their friendship had become something rare and precious, something that transcended the vast differences between their positions and species. Do you remember what you told me the first night we met? Mirai asked. About refusing to give up? I remember, Daehyun said. You were right, Mirai said. Humans never gave up. Even when everything seemed lost, you kept your knowledge alive. You kept your dignity. You kept hope. That stubborn refusal to surrender taught me something important. It taught me that strength comes in many forms. Daehyun gestured to his oil lamp still burning on the workbench. Sometimes the simplest light guides us through the darkest times. In the years that followed, historians would study this period. They would write about the Age of Recognition, when the Veltharian Empire learned to value wisdom over mere power. They would analyze the political changes and social reforms. They would debate the causes and effects. But for those who were there, the real story was simpler. It was about an empress who questioned what she believed. It was about a mechanic who preserved knowledge in dark times. It was about the moment when one person's curiosity met another person's patience, and something new became possible. The oil lamp still burns in the memorial repair bay. Students visit to see it. They learn about the night an empress found a human reading by lamplight and asked a simple question. They learn how that question led to more questions, and those questions changed everything. Suyeon teaches now, carrying forward Daehyun's methods. On her desk sits a gift from Empress Mirai, given on the day Suyeon became an official cultural ambassador. It is an oil lamp, polished and beautiful, and a first-edition book of Marcus Aurelius. The note with it read simply, "For the next generation. Keep the light burning. And so the light continues. In repair bays, in classrooms, in councils and homes, humans and aliens learn from each other. They discover that every civilization has wisdom to offer. They find that true advancement means recognizing worth in all its forms. Empress Mirai rules with a different philosophy now. She remembers the mechanic reading by lamplight. She remembers the hidden library and the quiet dignity of people who refuse to be erased. She remembers that the most important lessons often come from unexpected teachers in unlikely places. And sometimes late at night in her private chambers, Mirai reads from her own collection of human books. She has many now. Gifts from Daehyun over the years. Philosophy, poetry, history, science. Each one teaches her something new about the species she once dismissed as primitive. She reads by the light of an oil lamp. Not because she needs to, but because she chooses to. Because some traditions, some symbols, some simple tools deserve to be honored. Because sometimes the oldest lights show us the best way forward. In the end, this is what changed. An empire learned to listen. A species earned respect through perseverance and wisdom, and two people from completely different worlds became friends, proving that understanding can bridge any gap if both sides are willing to try. The story of the Empress and the mechanic became legend. Children across the empire learn it in schools. It teaches them that wisdom can be found anywhere, that prejudice blinds us to truth, that courage means questioning what everyone else accepts, that small moments can change everything. And somewhere in a repair bay on a frontier station, an old lamp still burns. Its light is small but steady, refusing to go out, just like the humans who once read by its glow in the darkest times. That light reminds everyone who sees it that hope, knowledge, and dignity can survive anything if people are stubborn enough to keep them alive.